Imagine a world where a chance encounter shatters decades of silence, revealing a hidden past that was meant to stay buried forever. That's exactly what happened when a young waitress spoke an impossible dialect to a powerful billionaire, triggering an unraveling of long-held family secrets. The Whitmore estate glittered under crystal chandeliers, hosting an exclusive charity gala for New York City's wealthiest elite. Among them was Amara Cole, a 24-year-old who had mastered the art of being unnoticeable, gliding through the crowd with practiced precision. Her gaze remained downcast as she balanced trays of expensive Bordeaux, each glass representing more than her meager weekly earnings. Amara intentionally kept her appearance understated, with her dark hair pulled back and only a hidden silver chain from her mother for adornment. However, tonight, an unusual tension coiled within her, a feeling perhaps fueled by exhaustion from a double shift and constant worry for her ailing mother. Medical bills mounted relentlessly, mirroring her mother's declining health, adding to Amara's silent burden as she worked. Pausing near a grand window, Amara briefly rested her aching feet, her thoughts drifting to a secret notebook tucked away upstairs. This private journal held a collection of foreign phrases, a treasure trove of words she had gathered, hinting at a past she tried to forget. "Excuse me, miss." A woman's voice broke her reverie. "Could I have a glass of the white?" Amara, with her soft, polite tone, quickly served the request before melting back into the bustling crowd of the ballroom. Across the room, Daniel Whitmore, at 38, appeared ill at ease in his own grand home, despite having built a billion-dollar empire. He frequently checked his watch, his jaw tight, his refined appearance contrasting with the genuine, though strained, look in his blue eyes. One of his board members, Richard Petton, noticed Daniel's unease and inquired, "Are you expecting someone?" Daniel managed a strained smile. "My father decided to fly in from Italy at the last minute," he revealed, causing several heads to turn. Even after a decade of semi-retirement in Sicily, Alejandro Whitmore's name still resonated with influence in certain circles. Richard cautiously asked, "I wasn't aware you two were on speaking terms." Daniel, after a long drink, replied, "We're not. Not really." Daniel explained his father had called yesterday, citing New York business and a wish to attend, making refusal impossible. The true situation was far more complex. Daniel and his father hadn't exchanged words in 5 years, following a bitter dispute. Their lifelong relationship, marked by Alessandro's demanding and critical nature, was built on obligation rather than genuine affection. Suddenly, a wave of hushed conversations swept through the crowd near the entrance, signaling an imminent arrival. Daniel's shoulders tensed. He instinctively knew his father had entered the room without needing to turn around. Alessandro Whitmore, born Alessandro Vatitali 72 years ago in a small Sicilian village, commanded the ballroom with an air of ownership. Though shorter than his son, he possessed an imposing presence, his silver hair and face etched with decades of pride and authority. Guests respectfully parted for him, some nodding, others whispering about his formidable reputation, his ruthless past, and the fortune he'd forged. Daniel stepped forward to greet him with a brief, formal handshake. "Father, I'm glad you could make it," he said. Alejandro's response, still carrying a Sicilian lilt, was a mere observation. "The estate looks well maintained, devoid of any warmth." Amara, refilling glasses at the room's edge, sensed the sudden shift in atmosphere, but remained focused on her work, hoping to stay unnoticed. Instructed to serve the finest wines to Mr. Whitmore and his party, Amara felt a knot in her stomach but assented. She gathered the tray of expensive bottles, crossing the grand room with controlled breaths, reminding herself it was just another service. Moving silently and efficiently, she reached Alejandro's left flank, where Daniel was engaged with an investor. Alejandro himself stood a little distance away, his stance stiff and his face a complete enigma. "Wine, sir," she offered in a hushed tone. Alejandro turned, and their eyes locked for an instant, his gaze dark and profound, hinting at a lifetime of untold stories. A strange, unidentifiable quality in his stare made her heart race. Then, an inexplicable change occurred within Amara, perhaps due to fatigue, or the way his aged face echoed childhood photographs. Or, It might have been an ingrained memory from a past she had tried to suppress. Without conscious thought, words slipped out in a deep, authentic Sicilian dialect, an accent of distant rural villages, not this American opulence. It was the traditional, deferential manner of serving wine to an elder back in the homeland. These were the very phrases her grandmother had passed to her mother, who in turn had whispered them to a young Amara, before deciding such traditions were best left behind. The impact was immediate and profound. Alejandro froze, his breath catching. His face first paled, then flushed, his hand suspended mid-reach for a glass. He gazed at Amara as if she were a phantom from a forgotten dream. Nearby conversations ceased abruptly, heads turning as the string quartet's music faded into the background. Daniel's face clearly registered bewilderment as he looked from his father to the server. "Father, what?" Daniel asked, but Alejandro ignored him, his gaze fixed solely on Amara. His expression morphed from initial shock into something more profound, a mix of recognition, perhaps even sorrow. Clearing his throat, Alejandro spoke, echoing Amara's Sicilian dialect. "Where did you learn to speak like that?" Guests exchanged puzzled looks. This was no common Italian, but a raw, ancient tongue from mountain villages. Amara's hands quivered slightly on the tray. She hadn't anticipated a reply in dialect, or any of this. Her heart pounded as she stammered, "My family, sir. A long time ago." She then shifted to English, her voice soft but firm. "May I pour your wine?" But Alejandro was not to be deterred, continuing in dialect, his tone low but insistent. "That accent isn't from Palermo or Catania. That's mountain speech, from the western hills. Only one village speaks precisely like that." Amara now felt the intense scrutiny of many eyes. Some guests seemed entertained, assuming her embarrassment, while others sensed an unfolding drama. Daniel's confusion had turned to alarm, fearing his father might create a spectacle. "Sir, I don't." Amara began, then paused, understanding every word. The dialect, once forbidden in her childhood home and suppressed by her mother, returned effortlessly. She responded in the same dialect, her voice hushed. "A small glass for you, sir." Alejandro's eyes widened even more, but before he could speak, Daniel interjected. "Father, perhaps we should." With a visible effort, Alejandro tore his gaze from Amara, switching to English. "Yes, wine. Thank you." Amara, hands trembling, poured without spilling, then retreated, seeking the anonymity of the crowd. As Amara tried to blend back into the background, Alejandro's voice, now thick with emotion, followed her. "What is your name?" "Amara, sir," she replied, adding, "Amara Cole." Alejandro repeated, "Cole?" as if scrutinizing the name for authenticity. He then pressed, "Your mother's name?" Amara felt the situation spiraling rapidly beyond her control. "I should return to my duties, sir." "Excuse me," she stated, making a swift but composed exit. As she departed, Daniel's hushed, urgent tones reached her ears, though she deliberately chose not to decipher their words. Reaching the staff hallway, Amara leaned against a wall, her breathing ragged as she questioned her spontaneous actions. 24 years of her mother's strict warnings about their past were undone by a single, instinctive moment. Marcus, a fellow server, gently touched her shoulder, asking, "Girl, you okay? What happened out there?" That old guy looked like he'd seen a ghost. Straightening up, Amara composed herself, replying, "I'm fine, just tired." But both of them understood it was much more than nothing. Back in the ballroom, Alejandro stood transfixed as if in a trance, while Daniel watched him with mounting apprehension. "What just happened?" Daniel finally asked, as his father's voice, distant and lost, replied, "That accent. I haven't heard it in over 40 years." Alejandro's hands clenched and unclenched as he explained it was the dialect of his birth village, a place where he grew up. He insisted, "That girl speaks like someone who lived there, learned from someone who lived there." But that's impossible. Daniel was startled to see raw, unguarded emotion in his father's eyes, not the usual cold calculation. Alejandro explained that the village barely existed, and those who spoke that way were gone, making her dialect an impossibility. Both men recognized this wasn't mere fantasy. An extraordinary event had unfolded, one they couldn't yet fully comprehend. The remainder of the night felt hazy and surreal. Amara stayed at the room's periphery, conscious of Alejandro's constant, scrutinizing gaze, which, though not menacing, felt unnervingly intense. Other employees soon observed the peculiar dynamic and started to exchange hushed remarks. As the gala concluded, whispers circulated among the service staff. "Did you notice the old man stare at Amara? What did she say?" It sounded like strange Italian. Perhaps she offended him, or maybe he's just a typical wealthy eccentric. Amara silently changed from her uniform, ignoring the swirling gossip, collected her pay, and hurried toward the staff exit, yearning to erase the night's events. However, as she stepped into the cool night air through the service door, Daniel Whitmore stood waiting. "Miss Cole, may I have a word?" Amara's heart sank. She instantly assumed she was about to be dismissed for upsetting the billionaire's father, dreading the loss of her income and ability to pay for essentials. "Of course, Mr. Whitmore," she replied, managing to keep her voice even despite the panic surging within her. Daniel led her to a secluded alcove, his expression a mix of concern and curiosity. He started, "I want to apologize if my father made you uncomfortable tonight. His behavior was quite out of character." "It's fine, sir," she responded. "I should apologize." "I shouldn't have." Daniel quickly interjected. "No, please. You did nothing wrong." Daniel ran a hand through his hair, a human gesture that softened his CEO persona. "I'm just trying to understand what occurred. That language you spoke, was it Sicilian?" Amara paused, weighing her words. "Yes, sir. A Sicilian dialect. I was exposed to it as a child. I didn't intend to use it. It simply slipped out." "Exposed to it how?" Daniel pressed. "Through family, sir. With all due respect, I fail to see its relevance to my job." Daniel raised his hands in a placating gesture. "You're right. I apologize for prying." He then added, "I just want to ensure your well-being. My father can be intense. If he approaches you again." "He didn't make me feel unsafe," Amara interjected, surprised by her own truth. Alejandro had seemed shocked and intense, but not truly threatening. "That's an understatement," Daniel agreed, offering his first genuine smile. "I've never seen my father react to anyone like he did to you tonight." He then asked, "Miss Cole, where exactly did you learn that dialect?" This isn't an employer asking, but because it might truly matter to my father, and I haven't seen anything matter to him in ages. Daniel elaborated that his mother had wanted them to be completely American, shedding all links to their old-world heritage and complicated past. Amara met his gaze, replying, "Sometimes, Mr. Whitmore, people let go of things for very good reasons. It can be safer that way." Daniel took this in, slowly nodding. "I understand that more deeply than you might realize," he admitted. He then produced a business card from his jacket. "If you require anything, or if my father contacts you and you wish to discuss it first, you can reach me directly on my personal number." Amara accepted the card, a look of surprise on her face. "Thank you, sir," she murmured. Daniel added, "Miss Cole, you are a valuable part of our event team. I truly hope you will continue working with us despite tonight's unusual events." A wave of relief washed over her. She hadn't been fired, ensuring she could still afford rent and her mother's medicine, slowly building towards a better future. She exited through the service door and walked 3 blocks to the bus stop, her feet aching and her thoughts racing. The cool night air helped clear the mental fog of exhaustion and anxiety. At home, her mother slept on the sofa with the TV humming softly. Amara covered her, observing her for a moment. Teresa, only 52, appeared much older, worn by illness and years of toil. Her breathing labored even in sleep. In her small bedroom, Amara retrieved a notebook from her bag, flipping past French, Spanish, and Italian phrases to find the Sicilian words her mother had taught her years ago. She lightly touched the page, recalling her grandmother's voice from old recordings. This was the voice that had carried the accent and words across an ocean, now echoing Alessandro's comment. Only people from one village speak like that. Amara quickly closed the notebook, wanting no part of any link between her past and the powerful old man. She knew opening doors to the past could unleash uncontrollable forces, so she merely wanted to remain unnoticed and let this strange night fade. Yet, sleep evaded her, and when it came, her dreams were filled with forgotten words and an old man's searching eyes. The next morning, her phone buzzed with messages from the catering company's group chat. rife with gossip about last night's weird moment. Amara silenced it, preparing for her diner shift, determined to stay invisible. At the diner, her manager pulled her aside. "Hey, Amara," an older man with an Italian accent called asking about your schedule, claiming to be a catering client. "I didn't give him anything, but I wanted you to know." Amara felt a chill. What exactly did he ask? "Just if you were working today, and when your shift ended," the manager replied, adding that he seemed persistent. Amara forced a smile, knowing Alessandro was looking for her, a thought sparking both fear and an unnameable sense of inevitability. Despite her outward dismissal, Amara knew Alessandro's pursuit was deliberate, a realization that filled her with a mix of fear and an unnamed sense of inevitability. Her diner shift blurred into a routine of coffee refills and breakfast orders, until her break finally allowed her to check her phone for messages. There, a message from an unknown number introduced Daniel Whitmore, stating his father wished to speak with her about her family history. He assured her there was no pressure or employment consequences, offering to meet discreetly at a location of her choosing. Daniel even added a personal note, confessing, "I know this is strange. I'm still trying to understand it myself." Amara pondered the message, knowing the sensible choice was to ignore it and protect her simple life from their complex world. Yet, an undeniable instinct, deeper than logic or caution, urged her forward, echoing the dialect she'd spoken in her unknown past. After drafting and deleting several replies, she finally settled on a concise message. "I need some time to think about it." Daniel's immediate reply granted her the requested time. "Of course, take all the time you need." The ensuing days passed in a tense haze, her usual routines overshadowed by persistent thoughts of that ballroom encounter. At her next catering event, whispers followed her, with some colleagues envious and others cautioning her about the wealthy. Marcus pulled her aside, advising, "Just watch yourself, okay? Rich folks got their own rules, and they don't always care who gets hurt." Amara insisted, "I'm not trying to get anything from anyone." Later, seeking solitude in Central Park, she evaded her mother's calls, unable to face questions about Alessandro's request. Another message from Daniel arrived, explaining his father's belief. Her formal greeting in Sicily indicated family, not just respect, suggesting she might be kin. The word family shook Amara, too immense to grasp, as Daniel's final lines revealed his own longing for a potential connection he never knew existed. Amara had often noticed her mother's fleeting sadness when Italian music played or Sicily appeared on screen, quickly dismissed. Another message arrived from Daniel, clarifying Alessandro's intentions were purely for understanding, not claiming her. He confessed his own deep desire to discover a potential family connection he never knew existed. Amara closed her eyes, burdened by the choice: cling to her safe, small life, or embrace the complicated truth. Stepping towards that truth meant risking everything she had carefully built on her mother's determined silence. Her phone buzzed again, displaying an unfamiliar number and a message written in Sicilian dialect. It was from Alessandro Vital, an old man admitting past foolishness and regret, offering only truth if she carried his abandoned family's blood. The name Vital resonated. It was Alessandro's birth name, found in her grandmother's hidden letters, marked private. Amara rose from the bench, her path now clear, and typed a decisive message. "Sunday afternoon, coffee shop on E72 ND. I'll be there too. Come alone." She sent it, receiving quick confirmations from Daniel and Alessandro. 3 days stretched before her, a period to ready herself for the profound truth connecting her family's past to this searching old man. Arriving home, she found her mother, Teresa, looking worried. Amara immediately asked about Nana's Italian letters and their sender. Teresa paled, her hands trembling around her cup, demanding to know why Amara was unearthing these painful, buried histories now. Amara pressed, asking if one letter was from an Alessandro Vitali. Teresa's sharp gasp confirmed it, and Amara revealed, "I think I met him, and he's been looking for us." The kitchen fell into a heavy silence, a moment when decades of buried secrets finally refused to stay hidden, promising a powerful new beginning. What hidden truths might your family hold? Share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more compelling stories.